Chapter: The Forgotten Relic. Miles Shaw pushed through the dense undergrowth, sweat trickling down his neck as the jungle closed in around him. His dusty fedora sat atop his unruly hair, shielding his eyes from the relentless sun. His khaki adventure vest, snug over a lightweight backpack, clung to him, damp with heat and grime. A sling bag rested against his side, the strap cutting diagonally across his chest, securing the precious cargo he had risked everything to retrieve. A machete swung at his hip and a coiled rope hung over his shoulder, both coated in mud and moss from days of trekking through the Amazonian wilderness. For days, he'd followed rumors of an ancient temple, one that supposedly housed a carved jade tablet said to unlock a hidden waterway system. To him, the artifact was more than treasure. It was history, a story that needed to be preserved. To others, it was something worth killing for. He stopped at the edge of a deep pit, writhing with snakes. The creatures coiled and hissed below, slithering over one another like a living, venomous tide. The ledge beneath his boots crumbled slightly, and he knew one wrong step would send him straight into the swarm. Unhooking his rope, he whipped it across the gap, the end snagging onto a sturdy stone outcropping on the other side. With a deep breath, he leapt and swung forward, his heart hammering as the wind rushed past him. He landed in a crouch, one hand skidding across the loose soil. Behind him, bits of earth crumbled into the pit, swallowed by the mass of writhing serpents. "Indy hates snakes," he muttered. "Can't say I blame him. Turns out I do too." With a quick shake of his hands, he stood, steadied himself, and moved on, ignoring the hostile hissing behind him. Minutes later, he reached the temple's entrance, a cracked stone doorway almost consumed by thick vines and creeping roots. Time and the relentless Amazonian climate had worn away much of the outer stonework, but remnants of intricate carvings remained. Serpents intertwined with swirling waves, their patterns telling the story of a once great civilization. A people who believed that water was both a giver of life and a force of destruction. Miles ran a gloved hand over the faded symbols, taking in the weight of history before stepping inside. As Miles advanced, he imagined the hustle of priests in grand ceremonial robes bustling through these corridors, guiding sacred waters along the carved troughs, chanting incantations to harness the tablet's power. Where his footsteps now stirred only dust, there might once have been lines of supplicants awaiting blessings or judgments handed down by temple elders. Every detail in the architecture, the basin-like depressions in the floor, the drain channels cut with geometric precision, whispered of a civilization that staked its survival on commanding the flow of rivers. Yet the emptiness that engulfed the temple proved that even a power as great as the Jade Tablet could not protect them forever. Whatever calamity befell this society, be it a cataclysmic drought, a catastrophic flood, or something else entirely, had reduced them to faded legends and half-buried ruins. Now, the only hints of their once formidable mastery of water were these etched walls and an artifact rumored to be tucked away in a hidden chamber, awaiting rediscovery by those daring enough, or foolish enough, to claim it for themselves. Miles stepped cautiously onto the rotted wooden bridge, peering into the steep fissure below, where an underground river roared like a beast trapped in the earth. The boards beneath his boots groaned under his weight, soft with decay. The moment he took another step, ropes snapped free, and the entire structure lurched downward. As the bridge collapsed, Miles threw himself forward. His feet kicked into empty air, his stomach flipping as he plummeted toward the raging waters below. Instinct took over. With one desperate motion, he yanked his machete from its sheath and swung hard at the crumbling stone wall. The blade buried deep, sending a shower of rock chips flying. Miles's arm wrenched in its socket from the force, but the machete held. Dangling above the violent current, he gritted his teeth, his free hand clawing for another hold. His boots scraped against the rock, searching for traction, as the river's spray coated him in mist. Muscles burning, he used the machete as a lever, inching himself upward. With a final straining pull, he hauled himself onto solid ground, chest heaving, arms quivering from the near fall. He sat there for a moment, staring at the jagged drop where the bridge once stood, his pulse hammering. Too close! Shaking off the adrenaline, he ripped his machete free from the stone, wiped it against his sleeve, and pushed himself to his feet. He had no choice but to find another way forward. The dangers kept coming. Spiked logs swung through a passage, barely missing him. A hail of darts shot from the walls, one grazing his sleeve. Miles exhaled sharply, brushing wood dust from his vest. Yeah, definitely still active. With no way back, he pressed forward, muttering, "One of these days I'm going to find an ancient site that doesn't try to kill me." Beyond the final passage, golden sunlight spilled through a broken ceiling, illuminating a pool of still water. In the center, Adaz held the jade tablet. It was more exquisite than legend described, its surface carved with serpents and swirling waves. Miles stepped forward, reaching out, but the temple had other plans. A deep metallic groan vibrated through the chamber. The floor shuddered, ancient gears grinding beneath his feet. The peaceful ruin had turned into a death trap. "Time to go," he muttered, securing the relic beneath his vest. He sprinted as the temple crumbled around him, dodging falling debris, leaping over widening cracks. With one final burst, he escaped into the jungle. Relief barely had time to set in before rifles cocked. Armed men emerged from the brush. At the center of them stood Valen Caro, a smirk curling across his lips. "Still playing the scholar, Shaw? I knew if anyone could retrieve that artifact, it'd be you." Miles squared his shoulders, chest heaving. "It's a vital link to an entire culture. Selling it off strips away their story." Caro chuckled. "You want to save the past? I'd rather get paid." His mercenaries lunged, tearing the tablet from Miles's grasp. Before Miles could react, a thunderous drumbeat rolled through the jungle. From the foliage, tribal warriors emerged, bows drawn. An arrow struck the mercenary, holding the relic. Miles seized the moment, breaking free, ripping the jade tablet from the man's grasp. Gunfire erupted. Miles ran. Ahead, the river roared, a violent, frothing current surging toward the edge of a massive waterfall. No time to think. No time to stop. Caro's voice cut through the chaos. "Shaw, don't be a damn fool!" Miles didn't hesitate. He jumped. The world spun. The wind howled in his ears as the waterfall swallowed him whole, dragging him into the abyss. Cold water slammed into him like a fist, twisting him in the churning torrent. For a terrifying moment, all was chaos. White foam, deafening thunder, and the relentless force of the river pulling him under. The jade tablet, pressed against his chest, threatened to slip from his grasp. Kicking hard, he fought upward, breaking through the surface with a desperate gasp. But the river wasn't done with him. The current yanked him forward, hurling him downstream. He struggled against the surge, muscles burning as he tried to steer himself toward the shore. Branches and jagged rocks rushed past, a blur of danger. Then, a thick tree limb jutted over the river. Miles swung his rope free, heart hammering. One shot, he flung it upward. The rope lashed around the branch, catching firm. The current fought him. He fought harder. Hand over hand, he pulled himself toward the bank. With one final swing, he launched himself from the water, landing hard on solid ground. No time to breathe. Behind him, the warriors burst through the jungle, arrows flying. Miles ran. The jungle blurred past in streaks of green and gold, the sound of pursuit growing louder. Branches slashed at his arms, but he didn't stop. The ground sloped upward, a dead end. A towering cliff loomed ahead, its sheer face stretching hundreds of feet into the sky. Beneath it, the vast ocean churned violently, waves crashing against jagged rocks with a force that sent white spray exploding into the air. The drop was staggering. Pure, open space between him and the merciless sea below. He skidded to a halt, glancing back. The warriors closed in, bows raised, eyes burning with fury. Miles exhaled, gripping the jade tablet tighter. Well, no turning back now. Then he jumped. Gravity vanished. Wind screamed past his ears. The ocean surged toward him, endless and merciless. At the last second, his hand shot to his backpack. He yanked a ripcord. A burst of fabric snapped open above him. The parachute unfurled. The sudden drag jerked him upright, yanking him into a controlled descent. The world stretched before him in breathtaking clarity, the jungle sprawling behind, the vast ocean ahead, the sheer cliff face dropping away beneath him. Below, the warriors reached the cliff edge, watching helplessly. Miles smirked, calling out as he drifted past. "Sorry, boys, I'll send a postcard." Chuckling, Miles looked down. A boat floated on the water, empty and waiting. Perfect! He angled the parachute, gliding downward. The waves drew closer, the boat rocking in the surf. With expert precision, he released the chute just before touchdown, hitting the water in a smooth dive. He surfaced, kicking hard, reaching the boat in a few quick strokes. Miles hauled himself aboard, collapsing against the wooden hull as he caught his breath. He took a moment to scan his surroundings. A covered boat, sturdy and well-built, its canvas roof shielding him from the blazing sun. Supplies were tucked neatly along the sides, the faint scent of aged wood and salt lingering in the air. His gaze landed on a familiar sight, a bottle of scotch nestled among the provisions. Miles smirked. Perfect! Uncorking it with ease, he poured himself a generous drink, the amber liquid catching the light as he swirled it in the glass. He took a slow sip, savoring the burn, then let out a satisfied sigh. Leaning back, he unzipped his sling bag and retrieved the jade tablet, its surface slick with river water. With a flick of his sleeve, he wiped away the moisture, revealing the intricate glyphs carved deep into the ancient stone. The symbols gleamed under the dim light, their meaning still a mystery. But Miles knew one thing for certain. With a lopsided grin, he muttered, "If this is just the beginning, I can't wait to see how much trouble the ending brings." He kicked the motor to life, the boat surging forward, carving a path through the open ocean, toward whatever came next.